is April 2nd. So the morning started interesting. Of course, I always wake up to MJ, and coincidentally, her message for today. So I was on the streak of posting 2 videos, right? 2 videos a day, and that streak kind of started slowing down a bit, just because I've been really busy with a lot of projects, and nice, the gym's gonna reopen here. Yeah, just with a lot of projects, and working on again, watering my own grass so that I can help others, right? Like, I need to make sure that I'm okay. So funny story, of course, always funny in my world. The last video that I posted is the New Beginnings, episode 2, where I talk about accepting foundations for love, and just how emotional I was, you know, when I started Bumble. And yeah. So it's just funny because MJ's message this morning, I'm just like trying to make sense of it. I'm like, doesn't sound like my current situation, right? I mean, parts of it resonates, but I feel like what she's talking about, like, oh, so you gotta heal your hurt. I'm like, she's referring to my video that I posted. She's referring to the video that I posted, right? Because that's around the time. I mean, you probably already saw, you know, because those videos are in your past. Well, they're in my past, but by the time you see this one, those will be in your past too, if you're following along. And that's around the time that I realized I do need time to heal my heart. Like, I'm not ready to jump into Bumble, right? And I stopped that process, and you know, the people that I was connecting with, I offered friendship only. You know, friendships are still there, right? We're definitely building the foundation for that as we speak. And just, you know, foundations take time, right? And effort. And that's as best as I can with the way my schedule is starting to pick up. I'm making that effort to yeah. So on that note, what was I gonna say about it? I'm talking about advice. When you give advice to people and they don't take it, and you see the outcome of it, and the funny thing is that today it was like because I didn't get a chance to post a morning video, so technically that's my most recent posting, and today it's just repeating again. This what's like that theme of you know, how much it hurts to see the people that you care about hurting. And I was in the sun today, so I feel hot, and it was warm today. I think I got burned. And so I took a loved one to the doctor's appointment, and this loved one, over the years, has refused to follow advice, to take care of his health, to take care of himself, for valid reasons. You know, for this individual has been dealt a difficult hand in life, difficult cards to deal with. I mean, to the point where this individual has disclosed to me time and time again that he wants to end his life, that's what he is really wanting. The first time that this was disclosed to me, I was 20. I didn't know anything then. That was before grad school. You know, a couple years after high school. And I remember just kind of like being shocked. I'm like, what do I do with this information, right? And time would pass, and the cycle repeats itself. I get that same message again. I'm like, there's definite mental health concerns, right? But at what point do you take a step back and just be present with that, right? Instead of having to jump in and try to save someone. And mind you, this loved one is older than me. Older. If you were to see this person, you would think he's older than what he is. And that speaks to the life he's lived, the challenges he's had to push through, the hardships, and the physical, and as a result of all the stress of not practicing self-care over the years. This is what that looks like. So I'm seeing what the end result looks like for someone who does not practice self-care. That's what I'm seeing. I've been seeing that. And it used to trigger me a lot. And I think I shared it in another video, how my pet peeve was, for the longest time, I couldn't stand being around people that did not take care of themselves, because I made an effort to take care of my health. Like, I just made an effort as best as I can. Not to say that I'm perfect, because, there's things that I neglect. But I did my best. And this person would just trigger me over and over again. And to the point where I was numb and cold and distant. And I felt it, and I didn't like that feeling. Because I'm not cold and distant. I'm usually very loving and compassionate. But it just triggered in me so much. Last year, actually. And this past year, with this healing work that I've been doing, having to come to terms with accepting this person for how they are. Their thought patterns. Very rigid thought patterns. Very controlling thought patterns. Not want to really take advice from people. Like, will here and there, but it's just... And even today, the conversation, I was trying to... he sees my videos, and I encouraged him to not see my videos because he's too close to the situation, and his response is too much, and he hasn't done his own healing yet. So I encouraged him, do your own healing, focus on you first. Yes, it's like his own mind is stopping him. Okay, right? Can't push people to do their own healing. That's their process, their journey. And for some people, when I speak about this loved one, sometimes it may come across as if I'm being cold, or I'm being insincere, or, wow, doesn't that make you sad? Like, I had a situation with someone else who was upset with me because I wasn't emotional about it. And the reality is because I've dealt with it. I've had to sit with this discomfort enough and be around this person enough to come to terms with the situation and just allow it to unfold the way it is unfolding. And so when this person shares those thoughts of wanting to end his life, and shared having sought out information from his medical doctor, and feeling like his medical doctor just didn't want to deal with it. And I can't go in there because of COVID, right? And his partner and caregiver goes in with him. But that's something that they need to advocate for, right? If that's what their decision is. And some people are like, how can you allow someone to die? I remember taking a class in grad school about grief and loss, the different types of grief and loss, complicated grief and loss. It's just, and there was a sensitive topic that we touched on, which was assisted suicide. And at what point do we step back, right? And allow someone to die with dignity. And this loved one tells me, I'm hurting. My body is hurting. Like, if you were to look at his chart, you would see. He is deteriorating. And it's difficult to watch. To know that a lot of this is a result of his choices in life. And I'm speaking in this video about how hard it is to see your loved ones hurting. When you've tried to give advice, when you've tried to guide them and they don't listen. I had another encounter today. A person reached out to me, apologized for not having connected in a bit, and mentioned that he was going through something difficult, having to make a decision about his companion, his furry companion of so many years, and being informed today that there's news of a cancerous tumor and the possible consequences, and needing to make a decision as to, does he end this companion's life or push through the possible treatment options, knowing that this loved one might be hurting along the way. So I responded, and I was just like, I've been there. About a year ago, we had to put down our scruffy. And it was very, I think we were ready for it to a certain degree because we saw him deteriorate. And we had tried, he was on 6 different medications by the time of his passing and his death. And we tried our best to stay on the regimen. And at that point in time, I was really struggling with affection and just, I didn't like that he was very needy, and at the beginning and then towards the end, he taught me about compassion. Coincidentally, the health complications that Scruffy is going through, my loved one is going through the exact same complications. So it's like the cycle is repeating itself. We got Scruffy from a shelter. We don't know how many homes he had been in, but we knew that when we got him, he was traumatized. And fortunately, around that time of, in our lives, back in 2008 maybe, dog whisper was pretty common, and we learned some techniques to try to rehabilitate him. But he always kept that anxiety in him. Same story with the loved one. He went from home to home and also trauma. And just, it's mind-boggling, when you pick up on the patterns and you see the similarities of, even though it's different types of living beings, they're still living beings. And going through challenges. Only one is more dependent on us as humans than the other. The other is more choice-driven. And Scruffy was so much dependent on us. And I guess humans to a certain degree are dependent upon the grown-ups in their life and what happens when they don't have that support. When they do become older, when they start making those choices for themselves. And Scruffy is just dependent, and dogs are just dependent on their owner for the majority of their lives. So hearing this person who reached out after a while of not hearing from him share his story, I think I had forgotten the anniversary of Scruffy's passing, Scruffy's death, which is next month. This is his little paw print. What I kept from him. We kept his ashes too, but I couldn't bear to keep the ashes. My partner kept that, my ex-partner. I just wanted his paw print. It just felt more real. How little he was. But it just triggered that memory of him realizing, wow, the anniversary of his death is coming up next month. And then seeing the cycle, with my loved one and then hearing this person's story and struggling with what to do, how to make that call for a companion that he's had for so long, and trying to mentally and emotionally prepare himself to make this call. And knowing that there's so many people in those same situations, right? With loved ones, whether they're furry companions or parents or, next of kin, or, they're on their advanced directive. I used to work in hospitals. I did hospital social work for my internship 1 year, and that's tough. Like I went through all the different departments, and the NICU was hard. I lost a baby there, and it transformed me in the sense of my coping, and everyone saw it, and they said I shut down, and that a little light in me, they saw that a little light in me kind of turned off, and it was hard to deal with because I had connected with that mother before she went into labor. She was admitted because she was having early contractions, and they were trying to save the baby. And when you do hospital social work, you whatever department you're assigned to, you go in and you print a list of the patients on that floor, and the patients that are there for 7 days or more are the ones we check up on, because to stay in the hospital for 7 days is you're uprooted from your life for a whole week. It can take a toll. So, we go in and do a psychosocial assessment and check in and see how they're doing, if they're needing resources or stuff like that. And I remember this mom. She's a young mom. I was young then too, but she was a young mom, and this was going to be her first baby. And then as I moved through the different departments and got to the NICU, to know that she had given birth and seeing the baby and the mom's name, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the mom that I connected with, and checking up on them. And then it happened to be on the day that I was there, because I was only there for 2 days out of the week. It happened to be on a day that I went back, and she lost the baby, and I had to be the one to kind of go and provide support, and that was difficult. And the mom couldn't even look at me. She was like, no, I just can't, not right now. And that was the last contact I had with her. But I didn't realize how hard it was, because I was numb to my emotions. I just shut down, and I redirected my energy and coped by redirecting my energy instead of sitting with the feeling. And everyone saw it, because I neglected my other patients. I was told that I didn't realize that I was doing it until they made me aware at the end of the semester. They said, you changed after that loss. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that I did it. And I focused on our canned food drive that the hospital puts out every year around that time. And I focused on that instead. And they made me aware. They're like, you neglected your patients on the days that you were here. And so they're like, but we're hopeful that, the next semester I went to their smaller sister hospital, which was more adults. So they suspected that I would do better there, and I did. Seeing the adults in the ICU, intensive care unit, and the end of life piece of it there was a lot different than seeing it at the beginning. And I remember, like, there was just something about the older adults that just I was drawn to, helping them advocate for themselves, because there was always that situation where the children had more of a say, when really it needed to be the patients and advocating for themselves, right, and what they want. And so oftentimes when I share my story about my loved one, there's a lot of people are upset that I don't take a more active role or approach in this person's life. And I used to, at one point I did, but I had to step away from that, because this person is still of sound mind. This person is capable of making their own choices. If anything, that's all this person has left, is to be able to make their choices, because of how their body is reacting to the years of stress and choices that he's made, where it's no longer functioning the way his mind remembers functioning. And so I had to step back and allow him that dignity of making his choices, even if they were poor choices, in my mind, right? As we judge others. And just needing to allow him to be, and me accepting him and loving him for how he is, who he is, and the choices that he makes, even if I agree with them or not. So that came up for me today, coincidentally with this video that came out, the last video, and being triggered with the story that this individual, with all, his open heart, shared with me, and apologizing for not having reached out sooner and what he was going through. So just wanted to touch on that. At what point do we step back and allow people to make their choices without judgment, without shame, without guilt, and just accept them and love them for what they are and who they are in that moment? To live with dignity, to choose with dignity, to die with dignity. Something to think about. Have a good one. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me. So take care.